Welcome to Reconnected and Free, a safe space to explore, recalibrate, and come home to yourself. I'm Maya, your podcast host, and together we are on a journey of creating a life that feels true to you. When doing so much and you can't explain yourself, why is it not working? I'm giving so much in, I'm working so hard, and still I feel stressed. I don't get the results. Then let me tell you, I understand that frustration. It can feel so hard, so unnecessary, and doesn't have to be like that. Challenges sure come your way, but it can be more in flow. It can feel easier. And today we are shifting from those beliefs and from this constant mode of doing and doing more but not getting the results to shifting with the how. Shifting how we are doing the things and getting into how that actually then can change the result too. So I imagine that you, for whatever project, or you see that in general in your life, no matter what you do, it just feels hard, and you just do, and then you try different things, or you try it harder, and still there are no results, and you're just wondering what's wrong. Maybe you're even wondering what's wrong with me. And this is the first where I want to stop right here, because there's clearly nothing wrong with you. You as a person, simply for who you are, there's nothing wrong with you. You are a beautiful human. And it can just be that you are stuck. You are stuck in this belief that you need to do more, that you need to work harder. And yes, it can be helpful to dissolve those kind of beliefs, but this is a process. This is a process you need to go through, where guidance is also a great idea to get some support. But there's also a different kind of way to approach this. A way that, just as I already mentioned, changes the focus in the end. It goes from the doing more to how. How am I doing things, and especially how am I approaching things? Because we often just run into something, run into a project, keep running, keep doing, and don't feel good with it. And we want to start right where you start things. Maybe not a project. Maybe you're already in something, but the time that you next time sit down for something, the time maybe you next time start something, decide for something, next time you want to do a step more towards the outcome that you wish. And starting things with an intention can shift how you're doing them, and therefore the outcome. Intentions are so strong. I personally would actually call them magical spells, because this is what they are for me. This is a kind of living that I experienced that changed so much for me, how I experienced the things, how content I was during the process, how trusting, how in the end relaxed instead of activated and fearful and stressed. And then also how it was that I experienced when I got that result, or when I did not get the result, because that also tells a lot. How are we handling those seemingly failures? failure does not exist in my world. And maybe that's a perception that can also help you, because it can be helpful to, from the beginning on, put some pressure out of whatever you're approaching there. If it's changing your lifestyle, your life, if it's a project, whatever it is, or your work or your everyday life. When we go with less pressure to things, it can be easier. And that doesn't mean that everything doesn't matter to you anymore and the outcome doesn't matter. It's just that we get more into acceptance of whatever happens. I'm able to handle this and I'm able to still make the best out of it, and I trust that this is happening to my highest good. That when something doesn't work out, that this is just an opportunity for something better to come my way, or that I just try it again, because there's no failure, there's just another option to try. There's just one way you have figured out that hasn't worked yet, that does not work. So when you know that one thing to your desired outcome, to that result, to that goal doesn't work, you can try another one, knowing that you don't need to repeat the same thing again because it didn't work yet. But this is where we just fall into a trap often, where we just repetitively do what has not worked yet, because maybe we are afraid of in the end really getting that result, really needing to hold up whatever we then achieve or gain. Or maybe it can be the case that we automatically repeat the past because our system feels like it is safe. Because in the end, all gets back to safety. Our system, our body wants to keep us safe. We didn't die because of what we did in the past, so we just repetitively do that. But something new can feel like a threat that can destabilize our nervous system. So it's good to know our tools to work with anxiety, with overstimulation, the feeling of being overwhelmed, whatever. And also that insecurities and not knowing what will happen, what it will actually be like to be somewhere, but creating that home within ourselves, that we are able to, and have that confidence also, have that confidence and actually the skills to deal with whatever comes in our life, whatever a so-called failure or a result, achieving a goal brings with it. And that doesn't mean that like everything will just flow always super easy and nothing's going to hit you anymore in the life. It's just about knowing how to deal with these things. And this is where you're so right here. This is what reconnection is for me really about. Not about once getting into a reconnected state and then just being blissful all life long, but knowing yourself, knowing your tools, building and having a little bit already built, then there's inner home that you can come back to, this safety within yourself, this strength, this knowing, this trust, this faith that it's going to work out for you. So as I said, maybe it can help to already approach things with a little bit less pressure. And also said to pressure that oftentimes comes from the outside, where we need to learn how to distance ourselves from the outside world, from what others are putting expectations on us, and there step back from wanting to please others, from just having harmony or whatever is the reason that we subconsciously oftentimes wants to be good with others, fulfill their expectations in the end, that's it. And that can also change a lot when we can live more from the inside. So with those whole programs like pleasing others, like people pleasing, and the need, the internal need to fulfill other people's expectations, that's just conditioned. That's something you can definitely work through. When we're just mentioning this now here, as the focus is on how we're approaching things, besides all the things that we can dissolve, we can work on. And this is where intentional living comes into its place. Intentional living, meaning that you don't just, as I said, run into things, but that you just take a moment, connecting with yourself, your inner world, your heart. Calm can help also to close your eyes, to breathe deeply, maybe even having heart on your hand, arriving in the present moment, knowing that you're safe, that you can listen to your inner voice, and clearly setting an intention for whatever you are about to approach. Even maybe it's a goal, and then saying, instead of I want to be, let's make it simple. Let's say your goal would be, I want to work out 3 times a week. And then you can just connect with yourself with the why, with the reason that you want to work out 3 times a week. Maybe you then feel that you just want to become healthier and more fit and vital, so you choose to make sport. And then your intention would be, for example, I do workouts to become more fit and vital and healthy, and therefore I choose to work out 3 times a week. Can you feel the difference? It's from just the goal of doing something, of really connecting with the why, which also makes it easier to do it. And you will not just do it to do it, but you can feel during the practice that you can remind yourself, and you can remember why you're doing this, because it's not about doing it to do it, but doing it to actually get into that more healthy state. So maybe that makes it even more enjoyable. Maybe that can make the way easier, and that you can also like do for different kind of, as I said, changes and projects, and for your everyday life, connecting with what it is, what, like the why are you doing this, and formalizing it. And also I recommend speaking it out with my intention for this and that is tuning then into the why, into the state, into the feeling you hope to get through it. And then, for example, to make it more visible, as your goal is then to, in the end, work out 3 times or do it a certain thing, a certain amount, in a certain amount of time or certain times, then to also say, I choose to do it that often. I choose to do it. Because when we are choosing something, we see that no one is forcing us to do so, that this is just coming from something internal. And there's such an immense power you have inside of you, that internal power, that internal wisdom, that voice inside of you that is just waiting to guide you, to that you get back more into your intuition, telling you what is good for you and what is now the better choice, and what you actually want, and no one in the outside. And to then approach the things intentionally. And when we set an intention for things, and that can actually also be the small things, just and go with a certain intention to a walk. Sometimes when you just ask yourself a question before a walk, that and then you just walk around in nature and don't have any phone or any distraction with you, or you're just alone, and then you just automatically, your brain starts working with that question, and then maybe at the end of your walk you actually have some kind of answer to that. And the same with the intention. When you set a certain intention, that is so powerful how you then experience the walk, and how it shifts something inside of you. When you just go out, because let's say you did a certain project, you work from home, you studied from home, you've been all day inside, and you just don't feel good, and tune into yourself and feel, oh, I feel that I'm just really exhausted right now and I have headache. I would just like to sit here, but I know that I won't feel any better. So how about going out for a walk? Maybe at least 10 minutes. Okay, my intention for this walk that I'm about to take is reconnecting with myself through nature and feeling alive, pain-free, and with inner clarity again. And then you just walk and can really actually recharge, can let that intention automatically like work through you kinda. You can also see intention as some kind of frame that you're giving, some kind of focus. Let's better call it focus. When you have the intention to receive certain opportunities, to see certain things, you can like set your brain's focus on things, and then you will more easily notice them or are more open to actually receive them, that goes also already a bit into the universal law of attraction. It's just so fascinating on a scientific level, on a spiritual level, to see how much can shift when you just go with a certain intention, or let's call it focus, into the world. Living intentional starts with making actively the decision to live so, setting the intention with from time to time, maybe setting the reminders to really tune into, okay, today, this is my intention for today. This is my intention for this project, for this is what I'm about to do. Sometimes it just takes a while until it's internalized. But once it's internalized, it just makes life so much more magical. And a plus point is it makes your decisions, in my perception, also easier, and it gives your life more meaning. Let me give you an example that combines those two aspects beautifully. So I personally have the intention to harm no one, and no one includes also beings. As I'm not enlightened, it can happen, of course, that I accidentally or subconsciously then hurt someone. Not taking me out of the responsibility here, but just to have that in the back of your mind. So to focus on the part of the intention. So my intention to walk through life is to harm no one. No one for me also includes not only people but also all beings, so meaning animals, and therefore I am living vegan. And this is my choice. This is how I choose to live that value, that guideline kinda for myself in my life, and that intention, that kinda how to live through life, makes it for me easier to then stick with it, to no matter if something is tempting, no matter if there are way more other products available, still go choose my aligned version, my that is fulfilling my intentional. And as I said, it's just a personal example how your intention can lead you through life, how it can make decisions easier. Because, for example, I see a menu card, I know exactly it's easier to choose from what I eat, what is congruent with my intention, with my values. When I go into a supermarket, I don't just go into certain aisles. I just leave them out because there's no use for me to walk past meat or dairy products or whatever. And this is just intentional living. And intentional living gives my life also so much more meaning, because sometimes they are just days that could easily pass by, or some days that are just that you're not looking forward to because there's something you don't feel comfortable with, something that just needs to get done, or it's a rainy day. But what if you are living intentionally? What if your intention is to make the best out of every day? You see the days different. What if you don't feel good, so you go out in your favorite park, and your intention is to spot as many and watch as many dogs as possible, because you love dogs, and you know that when you see someone else having fun, enjoying, as dogs are like most of the time in that state, then you will most likely feel similar. Or like, when you see other people laughing and being happy, and that just makes you oftentimes happier too. So intentional living can shift your perception, can shift your focus on what really matters for you, can be a guide how to walk through life, how to make easier decisions, can help you to endure challenges and make the best out of it, and feel on the way that what you're doing is meaningful, and you know what you're doing for, so it feels easier, it feels more worth it to go through challenging times, moments, or days. And it's just about, in the end, intentional living is having a purposeful life, however you define that yourself, which makes you more content in the evenings you go to bed, which makes you more content when you look back after a few years, which in the end makes you, that's how I imagine it, at the end of your life, happily look back and be like, hey, it was meaningful. It was just overall, it was just great. And I can say I always gave my best. So this is your invitation to start stepping and step by step internalizing intentional living, to be more content in the process, to endure challenges, and in the end have a more meaningful, happier life. Thank you for being here. Until next time, much love, Maya.